You're listening to the CyberWire Network, powered by N2K.
This episode is brought to you by Palo Alto Networks, the leader in cybersecurity. As AI-driven attacks increase, organizations can't afford to have network security that's stuck in the past. Discover how Palo Alto Networks can help you predict what's coming and proactively secure against it with a zero-trust, AI-powered network security platform built to secure whatever, whenever, wherever. To learn more, visit paloaltonetworks.com/network security platform. A roundup of news out of CISA. California reveals data brokers selling the sensitive information of minors. Permiso Security shares an open-source cloud intrusion detection tool. Darktrace highlights a campaign exploiting DropBox. The EU's Cybersecurity Solidarity Act forges ahead. A White House committee urges new economic incentives for securing OT systems. Paysign investigates claims of a data breach. Our guest is Alex Cox, Director of Threat Intelligence, Mitigation, and Escalation at LastPass, to discuss what to expect after LockBit. And Axios highlights the clowns and fools behind ransomware attacks. It's Monday, March 11th, 2024. I'm Dave Bittner, and this is your N2K CyberWire Intel Briefing. Happy Monday, everyone. It is great to have you here with us. We begin today with a roundup of news out of CISA. Last month, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency discovered it had been hacked, leading to the shutdown of two key computer systems. These systems were instrumental in sharing cyber and physical security tools among various government levels and for assessing chemical facility security. Despite the breach, CISA reported no operational impact, emphasizing their ongoing efforts to modernize and enhance system security. The incident exploited vulnerabilities in virtual private networking software by Avanti, which had been previously identified by CISA as a risk. This breach, suspected to be linked to a Chinese espionage group, highlights the universal risk of cyber vulnerabilities even among cybersecurity entities. The irony underscores the importance of prepared incident response plans for all organizations. Meanwhile, CISA announced steps to enhance open-source software security following a summit with OSS community leaders. Initiatives include promoting package repository security principles, enabling better collaboration with OSS infrastructure operators, and publishing materials to aid in vulnerability and incident response improvements. Significant contributions include the Rust Foundation's plans for public key infrastructure on crates.io, the Python Software Foundation's expansion of PyPy for secure publishing, and enhanced security measures by Packagist, Composer, NPM, and Maven Central. These actions involve implementing multi-factor authentication, digital attestations, and security audits, aiming to secure critical infrastructure reliant on OSS. CISA Director Jen Easterly emphasized the importance of these efforts in partnership with the OSS community to bolster the ecosystem's security. Staying with CISA for just a bit longer, the U.S. Government Accountability Office reviewed CISA's 13 operational technology cybersecurity products and services, revealing positive feedback from 12 out of 13 non-federal entities. Challenges were noted, including difficulties experienced by 7 entities, such as the DoD's Defense Cyber Crime Center and the Department of Energy's Office of Cybersecurity. Key issues included delays in vulnerability reporting and insufficient CISA staff with OT skills. Despite these challenges, positive experiences with CISA's advisories, tools, and training were highlighted. GAO recommends CISA improve customer service measurement and workforce planning for its OT services. CISA, recognizing these challenges, has initiatives like the Industrial Control Systems Working Group to enhance OT security. DHS has concurred with GAO's recommendations, indicating plans for implementation to bolster OT cybersecurity collaboration and services. A report out of California reveals that out of 480 data brokers registered with the California Privacy Protection Agency, 24 sell data on minors, 79 trade in precise geolocation, and 25 deal in reproductive health information. This disclosure, mandated by California's Delete Act, highlights the trade in sensitive personal data. The Delete Act becomes effective in 2026 and will allow consumers to request the deletion of their personal data with ease. Experts criticize the current system's failure to protect children's privacy, noting that federal laws like COPPA are inadequate. The Act also introduces penalties for non-registration and mandates periodic audits of data brokers to ensure compliance, aiming to enhance consumer privacy and data protection. Permiso Security has introduced Cloud Grappler, an open-source tool designed to enhance the detection of cloud environment intrusions by APTs. Leveraging Cato Security's Cloud Grep tool, Cloud Grappler supports searches in AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Storage, focusing on the TTPs of major threat actors. It provides a granular analysis of security incidents, helping to quickly identify anomalies. The tool includes a data sources JSON file for scan scope definition and a queries JSON file with predefined and customizable TTPs. Upon completion, Cloud Grappler generates a detailed JSON report of findings, aiding security teams in prompt response. Security firm Darktrace has identified a sophisticated phishing and malspam campaign exploiting DropBox to target software-as-a-service platform users. This new attack bypasses multi-factor authentication, encouraging recipients to download malware and compromise their login details. Attackers send emails from legitimate Dropbox addresses containing malicious links. A specific instance on January 25th of this year involved an email to 16 Darktrace software-as-a-service users, leading to a PDF hosted on Dropbox with a link to a fake Microsoft 365 login page, aiming to harvest credentials. Despite Darktrace's security measures, the campaign saw some success, with suspicious SaaS activity observed, including logins from unusual locations via VPNs. This incident underscores the sophistication of phishing attacks and the challenge of securing SaaS environments against credential theft, even with MFA in place. The EU's Cyber Solidarity Act, a proposal introduced to bolster cyber resilience, received preliminary approval on March 5th, marking a significant legislative development. This act outlines measures to enhance EU-wide cyber defense capabilities. Key features include establishing a European cybersecurity alert system, powered by AI and analytics, for swift threat communication, a cybersecurity emergency mechanism for preparedness testing in critical sectors, and a EU cybersecurity reserve, offering incident response services. Additionally, it provides for financial support for mutual assistance in cyber incidents, encouraging collaboration among member states during severe attacks. Thierry Breton, EU Commissioner for Internal Markets, emphasized its critical role in establishing a European cyber shield for quicker threat detection and collective support mechanisms. Pending formal approval, the Act envisions stronger EU-level cyber cooperation and mandates for critical infrastructure on preparedness testing, enhancing security for citizens. The National Security Telecommunications Advisory Committee, made up of representatives from the nation's largest telecommunications companies as well as cybersecurity firms, urges the federal government to introduce economic incentives and new liability protections to boost cybersecurity in critical infrastructure. Recognizing that market forces alone are inadequate for encouraging essential cybersecurity investments, the committee suggests tax deductions, federal grants, and a nationwide educational push on available federal cybersecurity services, like those from CISA, NSA, and NIST. Additionally, it calls for clear liability protections to facilitate freer information sharing on cyber threats. The recommendations aim to bridge the cybersecurity investment gap and simplify the complex cyber regulatory landscape, enhancing the protection of national security against heightened threats, as exemplified by the Chinese government-linked hacking group Volt Typhoon's activities in American infrastructure. Financial services firm Paysign is probing allegations of a data breach after a hacker purportedly offered to sell a database with millions of consumer records tied to the company. Despite these reports, Paysign says there's been no disruption to their services, allowing cardholders to continue using their accounts. The company is known for its prepaid card programs and digital banking services, and recently partnered with MasterCard for product development. A hacker named Emo claims to have stolen over 1.2 million records, including sensitive customer information, asserting the breach happened recently. Coming up after the break, my conversation with Alex Cox from LastPass. We're discussing what to expect after LockBit. Stay with us. In the complex world of enterprise identity, securing legacy web apps at scale can be daunting. Strata Identity makes it simple. With Strata, you can effortlessly integrate non-standard apps with any identity service, like MFA or SSO, with zero coding and zero hassle. Designed by identity architects for identity architects, Strata works with every vendor, standard, and app architecture. This means your apps can now speak modern protocols and integrate seamlessly with your chosen identity services. From securing on-prem web apps to migrating away from outdated identity providers or consolidating them, Strata helps you keep your complex access policies as you modernize your identity infrastructure and get rid of technical debt. Join leading organizations like 3M, Dallas County, and CIBC in securing your apps with Strata. Visit strata.io/cyberwire, share your identity security priorities, and receive a complimentary pair of AirPods Pro. Offer valid for organizations with over 5,000 employees. Connect today at strata.io/cyberwire. Hey everybody, I want to take a few minutes here and talk about our sponsor, Splunk. You know, you need to keep operations humming around the clock, but potential disruptions are everywhere. Splunk helps you predict problems and find and fix issues fast, so you can reduce risk and ditch downtime. The world's largest enterprises rely on Splunk's unified security and observability platform to become more efficient, resilient, and innovative. With Splunk, you can react quickly, evolve faster, and be ready for anything. Stay ahead of disruptions. Learn more at splunk.com/resilience. I recently had the pleasure of speaking with Alex Cox, Director of Threat Intelligence, Mitigation, and Escalation at LastPass. Our conversation centers on what to expect after LockBit.
You know, we see regularly connected action to take down some of these larger cybercriminal groups, especially when they are as impactful as LockBit has been historically. But I've been around long enough and I've been exposed to enough of these takedowns to know the reality of them. And that's that, you know, they are often temporary and that the bad guys have gotten pretty good at learning about how takedowns operate and how they can mitigate the damage that the good guys can do to their operation.
Yeah. And in your estimation, how permanent does this one seem to be so far?
Well, being that they were back up within a week, not permanent at all. So so one of the things when we talk about ransomware and the ransomware groups that I like to talk about is how kind of ransomware became to be a thing. And it really is, it goes back to the banking Trojans of, 15, 20 years ago, because the threat actors, the cyber criminals kind of got started in the banking Trojan world. They went, okay, cool. We can infect grandma's machine. When she logs into her bank, we can steal her credentials, then we can steal her money. And that worked for a while. And the good guys kind of went, okay, this is happening. The banks figured it out. They started doing some detection and they were able to mitigate that to a certain extent. So the bad guys backed up a little bit and they went back to the drawing board and they said, okay, that worked pretty well with getting money and getting access to an account. What's the next thing we could do? Well, the next thing was fake AV. So if you remember fake antivirus, everywhere you logged in, it was like, hey, your machine's infected. Download this tool and we'll fix your problem. So the advantage that they got there is it was kind of a 3-part punch, right? You downloaded the tool for $30. So they got $30. They got access to your machine and they got your credit card. So whereas they were typically just getting credit card or access to your account to begin with, the second stage was, oh, hey, I'm going to scare you. And then that way I'm going to get, your credit card, your access to your machine and $30. So that worked for a while. And the good guys kind of went, okay, the fake AV thing is a thing. Let's figure it out. And they mitigated it to a certain extent. Well, so then the bad guys went, okay, so the fear thing worked really well. How can we leverage that? And then they went, okay, now we're going to infect these machines with this ransomware. It's going to encrypt all of this person's data, and we're going to make them pay me a Bitcoin or two to get it back. And so they had figured out that both the stealing the financial information and the fear part of it worked, and that sort of resulted in ransomware. And then sort of the fourth stage that we're seeing is the data ransom. So now they're using that fear tactic on another level where they're getting into an organization, they're infecting the place with ransomware, they're getting access to valuable data, they're exporting it off the victim network, and then they're going, oh, by the way, we have all this data, and if you don't pay us within a week, we're going to release it publicly. So, intellectual property secrets and financial information, email, and all that jazz. So they've kind of gone from a single compromise of grandma's machine to I'm going to release this data from this giant corporation to try to harm them. So, it's what we call big game hunting from that standpoint, where they're going after these giant corporations with lots of data. So when you look at ransomware these days, that's the history behind what they're doing and why they're doing it. And the other thing that the bad guys learned over that time was that, when I attack, if I'm going to do this major cybercrime operation, I have to expect takedown activity from the defenders, and I have to be able to mitigate that. So like when you look at LockBit, the way they mitigated that is they didn't run all of their servers on PHP, which is what the attackers or the defenders used to take them down, law enforcement used to take them down. So they were able to keep some servers up, and then they had backups. So as soon as all the PHP servers were taken down, they just stood their backups up, redirected all their bots, and they're active again. And it took about a week. And that's, that is something that we see over and over again these days.
So to what degree do you think a takedown like this actually moves the needle, if at all?
Yeah, it depends. Modern takedowns are super complex. There's typically a bunch of moving parts. Like I said, the bad guys are good at hiding stuff. And, what you'll see is there are typically multiple security companies, law enforcement, some legal teams. And, if you look at the way Microsoft has approached this problem with their digital crimes unit, they're attacking it legally, right? They're saying, hey, this person's harming the business. This person's, stealing our intellectual property. And they've had some success doing that. But it's one of those situations where if you don't get everything, then the bad guys are likely to bring it back up. So it really depends on the takedown and how completely the good guys understand the operation as to whether it's going to stick or not. But most recently, it's not super. It doesn't stick super well, right? We typically see the bad guys bring their stuff back up within weeks or months.
Mm. Well, the organizations that you see who are having success here in terms of not falling victim to ransomware or being able to get back up and running if they do fall victim here, what are the common elements that they have to see some success?
So it's really around security hygiene. I mean, there's some basic, security hygiene things that you can do that will help protect you. Like the number one is patching. If you look statistically, when a company is hacked, the vulnerability that was used to get in to begin with is typically about 18 months old, right? So that means that company or that entity had 18 months to patch that, and it did not. If that's the situation, right, having this very robust and active and regular patching program, kind of helps with that foothold that the bad guys try to get. So that's the first one. The second one is around password management, right? Not reusing passwords, using unique passwords for each site you have, using a password manager, sort of understanding that like things like service accounts and administrator accounts are highly targeted. So having a little bit more scrutiny, a little bit more process around getting that level of rights or getting access to those accounts. And then the third one is using two-factor authentication. One of the ways I like to describe that is to think about your front door, right? Your front door has both a deadbolt and a door lock. One of those makes the door secure most of the time, but in that case, you only have to beat one to get in. The old military saying of, two is one and one is none. If I'm going to use, if you look at multi-factor authentication, you've got a password and you've got your multi-factor. So you've got your door lock and your deadbolt. If you use both of them, you're more secure than just the password. So that's how I like to explain multi-factor. So those three things, right? Patching, not reusing your passwords, and using password management, and multi-factor authentication. Those are the base security hygiene things that will help most companies kind of, help with this problem. And then the other one is people, right? So a lot of the intrusion work that happens starts with a person, right? And that's either via, a phishing email or some social engineering. So that's the education piece. And of course, the education piece is not 100% effective, because we all know that you educate your employees on not clicking on phishing emails, and a certain percentage of them are going to click on them anyway. But it's just part of the puzzle that we kind of put together to do that. But if you look at the companies like big banks and big technology firms and that have all of this robust patching and security management, they're less likely. And that's one of the reasons that the ransomware folks have been targeting like small businesses and legal and healthcare and those education, those entities that aren't quite as capable, don't have as much resource to devote towards security measures.
We've been seeing some calls lately from some former government officials and even some security companies suggesting that perhaps banning ransomware payments could be a potential solution here. Do you have any thoughts on that possibility?
Yeah, I mean, so paying the ransom is a double-edged sword. I mean, I think the last statistic I saw on that was that about 25% of folks that pay their ransom get their data back. So it's not huge. It's not a good bet from that standpoint. And then the other thing is, obviously the pay the ransom has sort of fueled the cyber insurance industry, because now, cyber insurance has to consider that a major ransomware issue could be huge. So, you've got that as well. You've got to worry about cyber insurance. So, it's definitely something that I wouldn't recommend as far as, how to deal with a ransomware event. It's certainly an option, and it's a thing to have in the toolbox, but it definitely wouldn't be my first choice.
Are you optimistic that we have a chance here to really make a difference when it comes to ransomware, or is this something that's here to stay?
I think it's here to stay for a little while, at least. I can't think of any particular technology or otherwise that's kind of on the horizon that's going to solve the problem. I mean, if you look at things like zero trust, where you've got a network that's built around the idea that nobody trusts anybody unless unless you're doing it in real time, or you're doing it at the time you're trying to do the access. That has some potential, because a large part of what makes ransomware effective is the access piece. So if I'm a ransomware actor, I hack into your machine, I get access to a single foothold. Maybe I pull some accounts off of that foothold and hope that one's an admin account. If I have an admin account, maybe I can get access to a service account. If that service account has access to a large swath of desktops, I use that service account to push the ransomware everywhere. So if you think about zero trust and the fact that with a properly implemented zero trust architecture, you wouldn't necessarily have that that capability, or there would be some steps that would prevent the ransomware from being able to spread uncontrollably. That has some play too. But again, we're in that situation where that is a huge re-architecture of most people's networks and most people's process, and it's going to take some time. So yeah, I think we'll see ransomware be a problem continually for a while, until we start getting some bigger deployments of that sort of, process, that sort of concept. And then the bad guys will adjust to whatever's next, and we'll have to deal with the next thing, because this arms race goes back and forth like that. It has for the past, really for the whole time I've been in this industry, which is over 20 years.
That's Alex Cox, Director of Threat Intelligence, Mitigation, and Escalation at LastPass. With over 8,000 threat hunters analyzing over 65 trillion signals daily, Microsoft works tirelessly with the federal government to keep our nation's data secure. This 30-plus year partnership is driving mission innovation that is secure by design. Whether optimizing your existing defenses or tackling advanced threats with AI, Microsoft gives you the intelligence and the automation you need to defend at mission scale. Let's work together to stay ahead of emerging threats and secure your mission anywhere. Learn more at aka.ms/fedcyber. That's aka.ms/fedcyber. And finally, experts argue that many hackers behind ransomware attacks are driven more by ego and a lack of impulse control rather than being organized criminal masterminds, Axios reports. This perception challenges the common belief among victim organizations that they are dealing with highly organized groups. Former FBI agent James Turgal highlighted the self-centered and egotistical nature of these cybercriminals, noting a lack of honor among thieves. Recent incidents, such as the ransomware attack on Change Healthcare and the subsequent implosion of the ransomware gang ALF-V over disputed ransom payments, underscore the internal conflicts and scams within these groups. The ransomware as a service model has made entry-level hackers more valuable, facilitating their participation in cybercrime without needing advanced skills. This has led to frequent infighting and scams, even as victims often overestimate the sophistication of their adversaries. It's a point well taken. How many times has an organization's breathless initial reporting on a cyber incident included something along the lines of, "We are dealing with sophisticated nation-state threat actors, and we feel there's very little anyone could have done to protect themselves against an organization with these sorts of limitless resources." To be fair, sometimes that is indeed the case, but it's also sometimes the case that, turns out, that sophisticated threat actor is just some kid with too much time on their hands and an overactive sense of curiosity. And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily briefing at thecyberwire.com. Don't forget to check out the Grumpy Old Geeks podcast, where I contribute to a regular segment on Jason and Brian's show every week. You can find Grumpy Old Geeks where all the fine podcasts are listed. We'd love to know what you think of this podcast. You can email us at cyberwire@n2k.com. N2K Strategic Workforce Intelligence optimizes the value of your biggest investment, your people. We make you smarter about your team while making your team smarter. Learn more at n2k.com. This episode was produced by Liz Stokes. Our mixer is Trey Hester, with original music by Elliot Peltzman. Our executive producers are Jennifer Iben and Brandon Karp. Our executive editor is Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow.
Managing the requirements for modern security programs is increasingly challenging and time-consuming. Enter Vanta. Vanta gives you one place to centralize and scale your security program. Quickly assess risk, streamline security reviews, and automate compliance for ISO 27001, SOC 2, and more. You can leverage Vanta's market-leading trust management platform to unify risk management and secure the trust of your customers. Plus, use Vanta AI to save time when completing security questionnaires. CyberWire Daily listeners can get $1,000 off by going to vanta.com/cyber. That's VANTA.com/cyber.